when you photography? Maybe it was the first time you saw an image come alive in the developer tray in the darkroom. It was simply magical that the picture seems to appear out of nowhere. Or perhaps you fell in love the first time you captured an image on your mobile device and could instantly send it to your friends or share it with your family. My adventure with photography started many years ago when I got my first digital camera for Christmas. The next day, I photographed everything and everyone at home and in the neighborhood. I had such a wonderful time. Photography was my new destiny. With time, I bought my DSLR camera and a few lenses. I studied all the technical aspects of creating a perfect image. I practiced landscape photography, portraiture, still life, macro, and so on. I learned the principles and elements of design and compositional rules and formats. These were all very left-brained activities, and I did accomplish my goal. I could create good images. But I felt that my photographs lacked a crucial component, me. I am not by nature a technical person. Setting a camera on a tripod to get conventional images started to bore me. I was not enjoying photography anymore because it had become work. By chance, I discovered Impressionist photography. The new approach to photography was fascinating and fun, and the magic had returned. I experimented a lot, and I realized that creating art, it's not about producing a product. Instead, it's all about the process. The aspects that I enjoyed the most were the happy accidents and the unexpected discoveries. I began to see things in a whole new way. I started to ask, what if? I spent hours analyzing my images. Regardless of whatever they were successful, I kept asking, why? And refining my techniques to get specific results more consistently. I wanted to know the secret behind the happy accidents. The less I worried about the final product and enjoyed the process, the easier the photographs were created. The more I played, the more I learned. As a result, my work became better and better. With time, macro photography has become my favorite. The great advantage macro photography offers is that it doesn't matter where you live. You don't have to wander long distances through time and space to find great subjects for close-up photography. Wherever you are, there will undoubtedly be something to photograph. Macro and close-up photography can be a journey into unknown, where new discoveries are constantly made. Even ordinary, everyday subjects can be depicted in a unique and expressive way. Working with a macro lens to visually capture forms and colors, it's rewarding and somehow unpredictable, particularly when you allowed yourself to try some more creative techniques. Imagine the excitement of finding an inspiring subject that you are passionate about and that surge of enthusiasm to begin taking pictures immediately. How wonderful it would be to do just that, to create freely, expressively, with a sense of purpose and pure joy, to allow your personality to shine through your images. Creating macro photographs present many unique challenges. You need to find a system that works best for you and learn how to expand upon it to make your work memorable. Talking about craft, It's so much easier than talking about your vision or aesthetic part of a photograph. After all, aperture, shutter speed, ISO are the things that you can measure. F8 or 100 of a second are always the same, regardless of your mood, weather, or location. Vision, style, and taste, on the other hand, will continually change. As your knowledge grows and with more experience, you will appreciate different things. So it is crucial to contemplate from time to time upon what you like or dislike, who or what influences you, and what you are trying to say with your images. Art is simply an interpretation of what we are seeing. We are telling a story in color, light, and shapes. Your attitude, what you know, what you feel, how you think, and how you approach your photography will determine your results. When I photograph a particular flower, for example, I always fall in love with it first. I learn about its structure, color, and form. I study carefully how each flower grows, how the bloom is attached to its stem, and how leaves grow. I like to know whether its habit is to ramble, stand straight, or form a bush. I like to capture the feeling of the flower, the color, the wind, the season. There are so many ways to photograph flowers. And creating an abstract image of a flower, it's very different from straight photography. Abstract art, it's personal. It is individual, not only to its creator, but also to the viewer. It is fluid and open to interpretation. It has no boundaries. Shapes can melt together, and different color can either flow together to make a rhythmic pattern or clash in a violent frenzy. Due to its expressive nature, abstract photography is suited for people who value freedom of action and individual creativity, and who constantly look for new forms of expression. Abstract art is about engaging the emotions of the viewer. It causes us to look closely and spend time in the details of every vein and color change on a petal, to notice its texture and understand its unique form. Taking the time to observe in this way goes beyond wonder. It calms the mind and encourages thoughtful focus. Flowers and plants have so much variation, and each bloom and leaf is genuinely unique. That leaves a lot of room for freedom to express what you see in your own way, which means you have to have fun with it. There are unlimited subjects to photograph all year long. Each season has its own subjects. Spring, it's a time for new beginnings. The first snowdrops brings a renewed sense of excitement and anticipation for the year ahead. The splashes of color appear everywhere. Buds begin to swell and finally burst, liberating the new leaves. The simple shapes of spring flowers provide the ideal opportunity to begin experimenting. There is something magical about a cherry tree covered in a pink and white froth of blossom that glows with vitality and brightness. Summer brings a delightful kaleidoscope of color and abundance of subjects. Autumn's undeniable richness is full of golden hues and deep reds. It brings textures, pattern, and shapes of leaves, berries, seed heads. They offer exciting potential for creative experiments. Additionally, their graphic designs point towards a more abstract interpretation. Even winter, the peaceful resting period when plants are dormant, can bring so many inspirations. As you can see, inspiring design opportunities and subjects of each season can help you to stretch the boundaries of your imagination. We can learn from and be inspired by so much as each season passes, bringing changes in our photography. No wonder the seasons inspire not only artists, but poets and writers who express how flowers evoke love, pain, sorrow, and joy. Reading poetry and prose gives you another view of the subject and invariably kicks off ideas for images or ways of seeing. I am constantly searching out new and unusual subjects to photograph, as I have found that each unique shape and color challenge my photography skills. Choosing what you photograph is the first step towards creating beautiful images. Start with a subject that you love. It is much easier to create something that inspires you. If you love the subject or are fascinated by it, you will find it much easier to study and enjoy the process of image making. My aim always is to photograph something beautiful, something that brings joy. Flowers are naturally beautiful subjects in their own right. Rather than simply photograph them to accurately record their color and form, I prefer to place them in a composition that celebrates their unique character, whether elegance, flamboyance, or simplicity. The petals often give a flower its unique character, and they come in a vast array of shapes, colors, and textures, from rounded and simple to jagged and frilly. Some are translucent.
We had a band concert.
Others are opaque.
Oh.
Some have a velvety surface, while others are shiny. Naturally, all different subjects appeal to different photographers. However, most will agree that the subject does not have to be beautiful, colorful, or complex to work as a successful image. Similarly, the choice should never be governed by preconceived notions about what makes a good subject. Because of our familiarity with our surroundings, we often fail to appreciate their beauty and take them for granted. There is no magic formula. You should always feel free to attempt whatever inspires you and try out new ideas. I look for methods and techniques that best describe the flower's characteristics or the interpretation that I have imagined. When flowers appear in my garden, I get really excited about the possibilities for capturing them. To help me to identify my main interest, I begin a series of shots using different settings and compositions. After making several images, a specific aspect may emerge, and I will then explore this in more depth. Some flowers, like dandelions, appear through the seasons, and I enjoy photographing them repeatedly in different ways. I like to have a theme or a project, such as a type of a flower, to explore. By photographing a subject many times, I increase my understanding of it, visually and emotionally. However, I never go looking for a specific subject on my photo shoots. Once I am on location, I rely on exploring, examining, and experiencing, all the time being receptive to any ideas that present themselves. Usually, I don't have to wait for very long, and there is no shortage of ideas. I work in a variety of techniques to explore a subject. Some creative impressionist photography techniques can be unpredictable, but this is the charm and challenge of working with this style. For example, when using aperture, you know exactly how the image will look by pressing the preview button in your camera. With shutter speed techniques, there is always an element of chance and surprise. But with experience, you learn how to exploit these characteristics and turn them to your advantage. Techniques are necessary for your toolbox to select the perfect tool for the job at hand. Your ideas should create the method you employ, not the other way around. This decision about a technique should be guided by the exact look you are going for in your images. My favorite way of working is to set my macro lens at its closest focusing distance and its widest aperture. Then I move around the subject, looking through the viewfinder all the time, moving slowly in and out to left or right. A movement of only millimeters will make an enormous difference to the resulting composition. I watch as I move how the whole image changes, throwing different parts of the flower in and out of focus. I work at different levels, from above the flower's height to below the petals. In fact, point of view is one of the most potent compositional tools in a photographer's toolbox. The angle from which you aim the camera impacts almost everything in the composition. The way the subject is captured relative to the light, the relationship to the individual elements to one another, and the subject's relationship to the background. Point of view gives you a manner of control. You can clear a cluttered background by looking up or down, on your left or right. By shifting your point of view, you can create separation or connection between objects, even when you cannot move them in real life. Presenting a scene or a subject from a distinctly different point of view can surprise and engage you. Various factors can influence the viewpoint you choose. Ideally, you will want to find a view that creates a good composition and, at the same time, helps enhance the characteristic you feel are critical about the subject. Emotion is another important quality in an image. If you photograph what you feel, this will show in your work. Your pictures will be more expressive and successful. Usually, my feeling and reaction to a subject are influenced by the quality of light or its transient effects. It is challenging to separate light from moods and feelings, as light illuminates our experience of the world. Light affects color and form, and both these elements significantly affect mood. In fact, light is the essence of photography. It's our most incredible tool and our most significant challenge. The effect of light and shadow gives reality and expression to images. Often the most mundane subject matter can be transformed into a beautiful photograph simply by capturing the play of light falling on it. I am fascinated by light and how it changes the forms, how they emerge and disappear as the light shifts. I like to photograph in all types of light, but especially with a backlight. The most stunning effect is a rim of light or a soft halo around a subject when set against bright sunlight. Like each subject, light has its character. It is the marrying together of light and subject in an appropriate manner that forms every successful image. As I am motivated by the effect of light and mood, I find that macro photography offers immense variety and potential. As an artist, I have the power to make ordinary subjects extraordinary. I can manipulate the light for subtle or dramatic effects. So, how can you use these principles in your photography? Begin each photo shoot by studying your subject carefully. Think of your subject as light or dark shapes, and try not to make things too complicated. Choose one flower or a group that you like particularly and start from there. Ask yourself questions all the time. What do I like about the subject? Do I really want to capture all I see? Is there a particular shape that attracts me most? Which viewpoint do I prefer? What story do you want to tell? What made you want to take the image? Go beyond the subject to study what about it caught your interest. So, if you are photographing a spiderweb, for example, what is it about the spiderweb that you are photographing? Is it the way that light is catching the frame? Is it the contrast of color or shapes with its surroundings? Is it the surprise of the spiderweb discovered in an unusual place? Answering what exactly you are photographing is the start to creating a composition to tell your story effectively. Once you know what you are photographing, you have a choice to make: what stays in or goes out of the frame. What point of view do you choose? How do you balance the elements available to you? What camera controls, shutter speed and aperture are you going to use to support your composition? Every decision you make has technical and aesthetic results, and those results are your choice. For example, if you decide to photograph a spiderweb, you may start to focus on how to capture and interpret delicate lines and intricate patterns. Think about the background that would show your subject in the best way, and what kind of light will best describe your subject. Then work through different angles to find the best composition. Each photograph has a story to tell and a configuration of light, form, and color that makes it unique. I often compare photography with gardening because creative ideas can grow from the tiniest seeds. They may begin life as a small experiment, but these quite often blossom, leading us into beautiful images. Please note, there is no right or wrong in art. The most crucial point to remember when creating is to enjoy the process. Just believe in yourself. Have the courage to try new ideas, subjects, tools, and techniques. Keep an open mind and be curious. Many people before you have done macro photography, but your approach is unique. Creativity is a journey that begins with an interest and willingness to experience and experiment with something new. So if you are a beginner, Don't put pressure on yourself to be original or innovative. Allow it to unfold naturally. This often occurs after you build up your skills and experience. Give yourself permission to start. You need to learn some basic techniques and gain some experience. This means practicing and building on what you already know. It's also about playfulness, playing with your camera and lenses. Appreciate all these steps and see them as necessary for your creative growth. Think about the skills or experiences you already have. What techniques have you learned so far? What do you need or want to learn next? What can you begin to do to learn these skills? In fact, these steps continues forever, and it's where your own stamp on your photographs develop. The joy of discovery keeps photographing exciting, bringing an incredible feeling of thrilling exploration. When you experiment with something new and unfamiliar, you stretch your understanding of the image-making process. How do you know what you are capable of doing if you limit yourself only to familiar techniques? The most important message here is the importance of play and practice. Focus on learning and the journey rather than on the end product. When we admire someone's images, it's easy to forget the preparation and the failing attempts that come before them. The planning and practice determine whether you will succeed during the photo shoot. By photographing the same subject and repeating your process, you can discover what works and what doesn't. It is a fantastic feeling when you manage to create great images during a photo shoot. And even if you are less successful, a photo shoot should feel satisfying as you have learned something and made a positive step towards your goal. Just keep going. By practicing patience, you let go of expectations and embrace the enjoyment of simply exploring the magic of light, color, texture, and your unique creative process. Exploring your creativity is also a fantastic way to sharpen your intuitive powers when engaging with your inner artist. You can travel inside yourself, let everything else go, and focus on personal expression. As you discover your own taste and artistic voice, you must push yourself in many directions until you find a set of techniques and ideas that work for you. Passion is more important than all the knowledge of using your camera and lenses. Never let anyone nor anything rob you out of it. Each of us has something unique to offer the world. Always be true to yourself, finding the joy, excitement, and adventure in your expression. Above all else, have fun. Joy is one of the main elements in life, and it is essential for discovering beauty. Beauty, it's in your photographs, and beauty, it's within you. For me, there is no greater thrill than discovering a fascinating and inspirational subject and being able to capture my thoughts and feelings about it in the form of an image. Photography is a beautiful form of self-expression. Thank you.
Eva, that was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Have we got questions?
Yes, you can ask away.
Okay, when you say one thing when you talk about a macro at its widest aperture, what's the widest aperture you use on yours?
Whatever my lens has, because you are limited to your lens. So some lenses will have 1.4, some lenses 1.8, 2.8, 4.5. So really depending of your lens. So each lens will always give you a little bit different look and feel. So sometimes you look at some pictures and you sort of wonder like how this effect was done. And sometimes you may even use exactly the same settings and be sort of like in very similar place, but because you don't have the same lens, you're not going to have exactly the same result. So you also have to bear in mind that. And that's not, it's not only limited to macro photography, it's to any photography, because each lens will give you different perspective, and each lens will render the blur a little bit different. So that's another sort of thing to think of when you purchase a new lens. Like when I look for a new lens, I always look for the, like, I wanted to see how that lens rendered like bokeh, like the blur stuff. I'm not so much interested in sharpness, which in traditional photography, that's what you will look for, how sharp the lens is. Like for me, it's the opposite. I wanted to see how, if the blur it's nice or not so nice, because some lenses render blurry stuff. Yeah, like it's, I don't like the look of it. So it's really thinking of what do you want, what do you like, and then looking for that. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
So when you are talking about macro, are you talking about one-to-one reproduction or any other?
Like I do have macro lens, but I also use prime lenses with extension tubes. So the moment you put extension tube or teleconverter between your camera and your lens, you will get a closer look. So if you have, for example, 50mm prime lens and you use extension tubes, you can basically get one-to-one, not with everything, but you will get you can get really close and have like a really nice magnification of the subject. So like I would say close-up photography, like, you know, so not to be sort of like, yeah, like it's just semantic. It's either like close-up or macro. Like, you know, we're not talking about macro. We're talking about more close-up photography.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anybody else?
Eva, I noticed on the backgrounds that they're very colorful. Are those natural colors, or do you augment them a little bit?
Okay, so I do have those, like I use the plastic spoons, and so they are colorful, and because they are translucent, I can put them, and especially for macro photography, they are quite easy to use, because like, let's say I do have like these glasses. So if imagine that glass, it's a different, like, you know, red, for example. So if I put that behind my subject and the light shines through it, I immediately get like a nice background, colorful background. And if I can stack those spoons one on top of each other, I can sort of like create as if there is a landscape behind it. I can have a different color, because like the spoon will have a little bit of red on the bottom, and I put the yellow spoon on the top, and another spoon that it's like blue. So that's how I get those colors. Not with every photography, but especially with the moss. I use like so I use those spoons to enhance the images, because like when you sort of like look at the moss, it's usually just green behind them because they are very tiny, and that it's, to me, it's not that exciting. Like, don't get me wrong, some need green, but I wanted to have more fun. So that's why I use those colorful spoons. But you can use gels, those translucent sort of like a plastic sort of sheets, or you can even have like bottles with different color of liquids inside. Like, use the food, the food colorant, or like, whatever you have, and then you can just put that bottle behind your subject, and it's all as long as it's translucent, because then you will get like a nice effect of light as well. Because if you just put like some opaque thing, like, it's also going to work, but it's not exactly it works a little bit because you don't have the things that they are behind your lens. I mean, that whatever you're using for the color, that will, like, your background will finish on that opaque subject, and that's it. Like, but with the translucent stuff, you will still get the depth in the image, even if you use like a very shallow depth of field and everything it's blurry anyway. But I think it works better. Like, I like it more.
Excellent.
Yeah, I've got one other question. It seems to me when you're shooting, you have a sharp point in the focus, but it seems like everything else in the photograph just seems to slide. I can't think of the right verb to use. And it gives it a really nice feel to it. How do you pull that off?
Well, it's using light, and also like sort of the side close-up photography. I want something sharp in it. It doesn't have to be like something like completely sharp, just part of it. Because when you sort of think of how our brain perceive reality, we're always going to look, our brain is going to look for contrast first. So the contrast you can create by light, but you can also create by sharpness and dark and blurriness. So the moment something is going to be sharp, your eye will go there. So that would be your focal point. And to me, that's important. Like, it's really, in the end of the day, it's up to every photographer to decide about that. And sometimes I don't really need something like completely sharp. It can be like quite soft, but you still have to recognize the shape. Something to draw the eye towards that the most important part. And it could be just a shape. It doesn't, like, like in most of my images, I don't really care. It's not, that's the wrong way to say it. What I am aiming for, it's not to show you a flower. I want you to see the flower as the way I see it. So I am choosing some elements of that flower, and that thing, and the flower, it's just a vehicle. And I am not interested to show you, oh, look at this beautiful flower, or look at this something. No, to me, that's boring. what I wanted for you to see is, look how interesting that flower can look like only if we look at it in a different way. Is that make sense?
No, it does.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am more interested of sort of like taking the flower apart to the very basic shapes, lines and shapes and color, and then showing those elements in a way that is interesting and fun.
I noticed in there
Sorry,
that you had a
so
praying
another-
mantis. Have you named him?
Say it again.
I noticed you had a praying mantis in one of your photographs, or two of them actually.
Yeah.
I wondered if he was a pet of yours or just a one-time deal.
Oh, that was like I had like a few of them, and I just sprayed them with water and I photographed them. Like, that was in one photo shoot. Like, in one photo shoot, on the green background. So that was from the one photo shoot, but I just look at that one prime mantis from a different perspective and focusing on the different parts of it. And to me, like, like how I can like present it in a way that everyone will recognize it, the prime mantis, but it's not just as a specimen. It's as if it's a character in a story. Like, so to me, it was more finding a fun part of the prime mantis and making it look fun, and it's
Whoops.
like from a child's book, for example. Yeah.
You carry a
Thank you.
water
So
bottle
it's always
around?
like, to me, it's like having fun and playing with whatever I'm photographing.
Karen, you had something, a question?
Do you just carry a water bottle around with you to spray things all the time?
Yes, because I will get bored very quickly. So, but water makes everything so exciting. and you are not limited to just mornings, because if you go in the morning you will have dew, but sometimes it's like I can do it that regardless of the time of day and weather. Like I can just get the excitement of droplets of water, and because of the highlights the water sort of like makes, I can also get like a more different looks to the image, because then the circle of bokeh get like, yep.
It makes the spider webs more interesting for sure.
Oh, totally. I think everything looks more interesting with water on it.
So you carry
I
a
think I'm
bottle.
going to try that on Rick Olson.
Say again, Pat.
I think I'm going to try that technique on Rick Olson, see if he looks any better.
It's going to take a big bottle.
Yeah, Pat, I give that an effort every morning and it has not worked yet.
But what you could do is, like even with people, you can spray the water, but not on them, but in front of them or behind them. And then it will look like rain, because those circles of bokeh, they are if they are not in focus, they will turn into the circles of bokeh. And if they are tiny, those droplets are tiny, like, when you can use, for example, like I've seen some people, like, those pressure, like big spray bottles for the garden. So I've seen that people using and spraying behind, like obviously, like you will have to have the assistant to do that. But because it's a very fine mist, and that mist will turn into the nice like a rain like or snow like effect if you shoot towards the light. So sort of think of your subject and then position yourself so the light is coming from the side and from behind, and then that will get the effect, that will create that effect. And you will see it that through your lens, like, you know, because if you don't see yourself, the that mist, the camera is not going to record it. But if you do see it, then the camera will turn that magic that the camera only can do. Like, you know, the lens will do that for you. But you do have to see that mist, those droplets in the camera.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Any more? Well, I'm going to stop